Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sean Evans. I'm with the Meridian Chamber of Commerce, and the Meridian Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the City of Meridian, the Central District Health, Crush the Curve Idaho, and numerous other partner organizations and individuals, are proud to share with you a program that will assist Meridian businesses as they reopen for business. Our campaign will not only educate the businesses on the basic guidelines to reopen based on the Central District Health and CDC guidelines, it will also allow businesses to demonstrate to the public that they're doing so in a manner that will keep Meridian healthy and open for business. Online and speaking with us today are just a few of the partners and organizations that have helped develop this program to support the Meridian business community, as well as local businesses that are leading in best practices when it comes to safely reopening. With us today is Tyler Jordan, a program manager with Central District Health. We actually have Amy Stahl with Sulcer Health and Crush the Curve Idaho filling in for Tina this afternoon. But we also have Connie Miller, the CEO of Icon Credit Union. And after they make their presentations and talk to you, we'll open it up for questions at the end of the presentation. The premise behind our campaign was getting businesses back open and restarting our economy. And this is why our group was started. We initially pursued efforts to get everyone open as early as possible, but we also saw the bigger issue of reopening amidst the COVID-19 crisis. And that was, will the public return to the stores or establishments when they reopen? We are contacted daily by our business members on how does the governor's plan apply to my business? When can I actually open? And what guidelines does my business need to follow? While the Meridian Chamber of Commerce is not an authority on this plan or the recommended guidelines, we are here to help our Meridian businesses understand them better. The last thing we want to happen for our local businesses is they go to the effort and expense to open, bring back employees, restock their shelves, and the public, the consumers, not visit their establishments out of fear or concern for their safety. The Central District Health and CDC have developed some guidelines to reduce your risk when out in public. If businesses can follow these guidelines as they reopen and demonstrate to the public that they're serious about the public safety and health, then that will build the consumer confidence necessary to restart our economy. The Meridian Chamber of Commerce has launched Keep Meridian Healthy and Open for Business to help our businesses build that consumer confidence. As businesses open to the governor's 4-stage Idaho Rebounds program, we will assist Meridian businesses by conducting these industry-specific webinars like this one, that we will provide information from the Central District Health and CDC on basic guidelines for that industry. The webinars also feature local business leaders that have taken further steps to ensure that they're reopening in a safe and responsible way. After a business participates in a webinar for their industry, they will be provided free of charge collateral materials to display in their store that recognizes them as participating in the Keep Meridian Healthy and Open for Business campaign. These materials include some door signage showing that they're part of the campaign. Also includes posters that they can display in their store. These posters basically say that they check the box to be open for business, that they're doing health monitoring of their employees to ensure that people are not reporting to work sick, that their enhanced cleaning protocols at their facility are in place. Employees will wear face coverings and gloves when in contact with the public, that they can't maintain the social distancing, and that social distancing will be accommodated in their stores between parties that come in. Excuse me. We'll also be providing social media materials to share online so that you can demonstrate that you're a part of this campaign and that you have the health and safety of the public at the best interest. Participating businesses will also be listed on the Chamber's website and marketing campaign to the public. One thing to keep in mind is this program is open to all businesses, not just Chamber members. We want to support the entire Meridian business community. And our program goes beyond what some other communities are doing by just creating a listing of businesses that are complying. We're trying to help them understand what this means for businesses and sharing best practices from other industry-specific leaders. The guidelines out there are not one-size-fits-all solution for every business. We don't know what we don't know until we start sharing. These industry-specific webinars seek to educate beyond a sheet of written guidelines. Educating businesses on additional protocols they can implement for their specific type of business is where the value comes in. And that value is the safety for your employees and customers. To make sure we're in compliance with the governor's 4-stage plan, businesses will only be provided the collateral materials when the business is scheduled to open, according to that plan. As a follow-up, after opening, the participating businesses will be encouraged to answer surveys from the Meridian Chamber on how their opening is going and the sentiments from their patrons returning to the stores and businesses. This will assist us in phase 2 of our program as we build out a business revitalization team to support Meridian businesses. Please look to keepmeridianhealthy.org website to see a full schedule of industry-specific webinars. What you're seeing here is just our webinars that we have coming up this week, next week, and the week of May 18th. This pretty much will be covering most of the different industries and what we have. And all of these, we've got industry leaders speaking to you about what they're doing in their businesses and facilities. Once again, that's keepmeridianhealthy.org for more information and the free webinars. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tyler Jordan with the Central District Health to share with you the guidelines for general businesses and possibly details on financial institutions that are able to open as of today. Tyler, you want to take it over?
Yep. Hey, everyone. So I'm just going to kind of get started with what we recommend as far as kind of bringing your employees back. We want to make sure that every place has an employee illness policy in place. Now, that being said, we want to make sure that all employees know exactly what the employee illness states, how to communicate that, know that they should not be working, even if it's as simple as just a headache. That's a simple symptom. But we just want to make sure that they fully understand the chain of command as far as that employee illness before they get brought back. We all understand that people want to get back to work. But we need to be careful as far as allowing people to work and make sure that they know to go through the stages as far as what companies' employee illness practices are in place. As well as once employees or places start to open up, we want to encourage people to post signs on the entrances of businesses, you know, the respiratory symptoms. If you're feeling ill, please do not come in. Kind of the warning signs of everything, as well as maybe some posters regarding, you know, social distancing requirements that each facility is going to adopt, which I'll kind of get into later. But also as well as, you know, asking so many people to only be allowed in the business. Now, obviously, that's going to be each business's policy on what they want to adopt, but we want to make sure that, you know, not too many people are in line, that once they get in line to maybe get services, that there's X marks down the line of social distancing, and then make sure that the employees are actually policing that, because if you have X's there, some people won't follow it, and there needs to be someone that, you know, is going to help them keep those distances for each other, as well as maybe having an employee designated to sanitize high traffic areas, let's say doorknobs, stuff like that, for people to use, that people use frequently if it does get busy, to make sure that, you know, those are all sanitized as much as possible, at the minimum at least every hour, if not more. Now, one thing that was kind of brought up as well is cash transactions. We do recommend that maybe if you're going to allow cash transactions, obviously that's something that's going to be brought up probably frequently, is maybe having one person designated to take cash transactions. And after every person, they should wash their hands. Now, that might not be possible, so what we recommend is having an alcohol sanitizer that's at least 60% alcohol that can be used in between each customer, especially after they handle cash. as well as if they have to touch cards or anything like that, we do recommend that they sanitize not only the cards or let the customer just handle it completely, but if they have to have a touchpad, anything that they touch, sanitize it in between each person. That way, when the next person comes up, it's sanitized. We do recommend as well with face shields, like the plexiglass, I believe is what most people are using to kind of keep the distance between the employees and the customers as best as possible. That's another good tool to help social distance, as well as obviously it's not a requirement that employees wear face masks or gloves, but that could be each business's guidelines as far as if they want to make employees wear them. If they don't, it's totally optional. It is recommended that if you can't have social distancing for whatever reason, there's a position that gets up and close, then we do recommend that you guys have that person wear PPE to protect themselves and everyone else, where the social distancing isn't going to be applicable. Again, we want to make sure that, you know, anything that's touched in between customers, so like if they have to sign something, if that is required for a variety of reasons, that pin gets sanitized. I would recommend having one pin per station, and that after each person that it gets sanitized, or having a one-time use pin, which I don't think that's going to be applicable or possible, to kind of help stop the spread essentially, as well as like I said, using markings on the floor for people to follow to keep a 6-foot guidance or 6-foot social distancing, as well as possibly using appointment only or use the drive-through as much as possible, as well as gloves. Now gloves, I do need to make this clear that gloves aren't necessarily make you completely safe. Now, you could still have the virus on the glove, so if you touch your face with it on, it's the same as just touching it with your hands if it's on the hands. So what we recommend is if you touch, or each customer, if you have to touch something that you may not be sanitized, then to throw away the gloves and get a new pair. So that's gonna be totally up to you guys if that's you know, something that's doable, but you do need to throw away gloves as much as possible because the virus can live on there for a certain amount of time. And then just making sure that basically all the employees understand what's expected of them, if they're feeling ill, how to go about that, and then that they fully understand you know, symptoms that they can look for and people coming in as well. Just make sure that they're fully aware of everything that they need to be. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have at this point.
Tyler, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving us kind of some of the basic guidelines, and we'll hear more from Connie in just a little bit on some things that the financial institutions may be addressing directly. Now I'd like to let Amy from Salser Health and Crush the Curve Idaho share with us a little bit about testing availability and maybe what they businesses can do as far as testing as they want to bring their employees back. Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, Sean and Tyler. That's incredibly great information for all of us in terms of keeping people safe. I did want to commend the Chamber for the Keep Meridian Healthy and Open for Business campaign. I think it's very innovative and proactive, and I think it's a real educational opportunity for all of us. So congratulations on that. I am speaking on behalf of Crush the Curve as the medical partner in the Treasure Valley. So Salser Health is conducting the tests on behalf of Crush the Curve, which is a nonprofit organization of businesses, leaders, and innovators who are anxious to increase awareness about the availability of testing for COVID-19 with the goal of getting Idaho back to work. So that's our premise, and we believe that testing will help us all by providing data and the needed resources that will help our businesses get back to work. If you want to advance the slide, did you keep? Okay. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the two kinds of testing available. Initially, there was a shortage of tests for the active PCR virus. Thanks to this collaboration with businesses, we were able to mobilize to get more test kits that are available for people who are both symptomatic, who have the symptoms of the disease, and asymptomatic people, and provide results and responses. And in the Treasure Valley, the testing for both the PCR testing and antibody testing is available at 10 Mile and I-84 in some temporary testing locations. It's also PCR tests are also available at drive-up locations at the two Salter Health urgent care clinics in North and South Nampa. There are other partners who are providing that as well in the Valley, but that is our primary mode of testing. Next slide, please. The antibody testing, you may have heard, has generated a lot of local interest. We've tested thousands of people. The results have shown about 1.7% of people are testing positive. That's a very small percentage. And just to emphasize, that's sort of a point in time testing. So it doesn't guarantee immunity to COVID-19. It also doesn't indicate if you would be potentially able to have the disease in the days or weeks to come, but it does give us a point of reference and allows businesses to have a little bit more of an understanding of what we're facing here in Idaho. I did want to mention that we work very closely with the state. We follow the CDC guidelines, so this is a deliberate attempt to interact and align with the health messaging going on nationally. Additionally, we all are working closely with the governor's office and the health districts. It's been asked that we mention that not all the testing is covered by insurance. We will work with you for businesses that are interested in receiving the testing. You can fill out a form on our crushthecurveidaho.com website. That information does come to us at Salter Health, and we will work directly with businesses to determine appointments and locations for testing. And we welcome that opportunity to work with the businesses and provide this service in the community. And I look forward to your questions.
Excellent. Amy, and if you'd stay around for questions later, that'd be great. Next, I'd like to introduce Connie Miller. Connie is the CEO of Icon Credit Union, or excuse me, yes, Icon Credit Union. And the purpose of having Connie on here is to share some of the best practices and ideas that her organization will be implementing or has implemented when it comes to their members, customers, and contact the employees have with the public. So Connie, would you mind sharing some of the things that your organization is doing and the steps that you're taking?
Sure, my pleasure. So I think first and foremost is just continued education and communication to not just your own employees, but where can you educate on the member and your customer level. So first of all, following CDC guidelines is something that is just a standard best practice now. And I think just don't assume that people always have those top of mind. So just continuing to push those out as often as possible. We do have a really do not come to work if you feel sick. Don't come and talk about it first and then be sent home. So a lot of education around what we're doing with the employee wellness piece, really educating employees, take your temperature regularly, all of those things. I think encouraging, I think we have a personal responsibility that's really important that we just continue to encourage employees about what that is. And it's not just for the business, it's for their personal and family life as well. So we do a lot of little things around just what that reminders of what those are. So what we've done is initially we really beefed up, for example, requirements on sanitizing after every member interaction, sanitizing our teller counters, for example. And then we also went into, of course, adding extra cleaning, additional cleaning with all of our locations. And then really look at other things that you don't think of that your customers might be touching. Pens were mentioned, for example. If they use one of our pens, we ask them to take it. But we looked at a lot of other things in our locations, such as our magazines. We removed the magazines and toys that the kids play with, and just anything that your customers are going to be touching that you're not thinking about, or that they might not be thinking about as a means. When we did go into for protection to close access to our lobbies, but we also have full access through the drive-up locations. In that case, we sanitize the drive-up tube between uses and anything that's interacting there as well. We do have a lot of employees that we moved remotely right now. That's working very well, actually. We communicate. We did set a standard, which I would encourage. We communicated a lot with Microsoft Teams and Zoom. I would definitely check with your security departments and make sure that you're using those with the top security. We are starting to think about now reopening the lobbies and doing a soft launch, and then actually opening the lobbies back up. So we have sneeze guards that we have ordered for some locations to try them and get a feel for, is it the right style? They are kind of clunky, and you have to figure out how you're going to service your customer around them. So our plan is, if they look good and employees feel safer with them, and they're functional is the biggest thing. Are they functional? Then we'll expand on those. We actually did a employee survey just recently with our managers. How comfortable are your employees, and what are the concerns? Do you have sufficient supplies? All of that from all of our branch locations. So that gave us a good feel for where comfort level was, and I think that that's important to know how your employees feel, because that's all going to matter to how they adhere to your policies, how safe are they, and also how they're going to come across to your customers. A big thing is to really encourage all the tools that we already have in place for members to use on the e-services platforms. For example, they can use online banking. We have a 24/7 televoice for those that don't even like online banking. Getting your cash back if you have to go to the grocery store. Getting your cash back right at the grocery store instead of making an additional trip somewhere. We do have our drive-ups open, so that's another means rather than walking through lobbies. We have remote deposit where you can deposit, just by taking a picture of your check. So there's a lot of things, DocuSign to sign documents electronically, a lot of things that we already had in place to really encourage people to use those more often. So I would get very creative as in your business about what are the things you have in place, or that wouldn't take much to get in to still be able. And we've seen a lot of businesses step up and do this with some remote deliveries and things like that. As far as masks, we're going to encourage our employees to wear them. They do come with some hindrances, such as hearing. They're difficult to hear through. And for us, as you can imagine, we want to keep information confidential at our teller counters. So the last thing we want to do is encourage louder voices and all of that. So that's something we're just thinking that is optional. We are providing them for all of our employees. They can use them if they want. We are putting footprints on the floor. So just a general nice way to say, okay, here's really where you should go next. And I've seen it work really nicely in the grocery stores on some of them that have put them in, as people are trying to adhere to them for the most part. We do have appointments only right now before we go and open back up. The appointments only all come with very clear expectations of sanitizing before and after that visit. I do think it's important that businesses start thinking about what policies that you're going to create in what does this look like for the future? What are the guidelines that you're going to use? What are the metrics you're going to use to say, okay, now I think we're at the next phase, or we feel more comfortable not requiring some of those things. So we are going to monitor our lobby traffic, and that's just going to be a location by location monitoring, and we'll filter that and adjust that as needed in regards to that. We also put in a no travel policy for our employees beyond a 2-county area. If you do, you have a required 14-day quarantine, and it's the same thing with household members. So the question is, when do we lift that up, right? And so those are the discussions we're having today. I think it's important you create that social distancing policy. What I will say is that it takes a long time to change the muscle memory around these things. And so we've been really working hard on our social distancing and making sure that if we do have a meeting, we're far apart from each other, or we're using Zoom, or all those things. But I will say that I've kind of observed when you're working together on a project or whatever, and this is really true of IT. IT gets in there and they want to help, and they need to grab your mouse or whatever. And all of a sudden you have this cross-contamination that just occurred. So it's just it just requires constant leadership to remind people in an encouraging way to have the social distancing. I think in that you really mean it, that I think before we put everyone into a little bit of stricter remote employee and all of that, before we were kind of casual with it. It was like, well, okay, that's right, I can't hug you and shake your hand and all those things. And so we've had this a little bit long, but I think once we get back to the social, I suspect that we're going to struggle with the social distancing again. So I think it just takes just really encouraging your leadership that it's okay to speak up when they see something and say, well, wait a minute, now we shouldn't do this. I think that that's going to be super important. So the biggest thing I would say that's really helped ICON and me personally is we have a trade association that the credit unions belong to, and we get together and share ideas and share best practices regularly. So if there's any trade association that's in your industry, make sure that you're getting some regular contact and conversations going on, because we have really discovered some great sources, whether it's source for supplies or best practices with particular, sanitizing things that we're doing, or just best practices with employee and what employee experience is going to be like. So that would be just one other thing I would say. So I think right now, to sum it up, is taken a lot of steps and we put a lot of things in place, and I think overall everyone feels really safe. I just think it's important that continue encouraging testing, continue encouraging all that thing. But in the end, it's going to boil down to just being aware of what we see and observe, and having some leadership step in and really just continue to encourage the safety of it all.
Thank you, Connie. I appreciate that. With that, I'll open it up for questions for any of our panelists. If you're an attendee, you can enter your question in the chat window, the question box, and we will get that asked. But I really do appreciate all the panelists being on here today. So do we have any questions? It's been a long day, quiet afternoon for a lot of people. So we may be running out of energy today for questions and things, but Connie, I think you covered a lot. Thank you so much. Amy, you've touched on all the high points of testing availability and how employers can go about that if they choose to do that for their employees. One question that does come up a lot on these, Amy, that you can maybe touch on is, what is the cost of the test, the virus test and the antibody test?
The current pricing is $95. That's the PCR nose swab that we've all seen pictures of. The antibody test, which is a small blood draw, is $105. but the committee has vowed to work with people on that. And as I mentioned, we're working with insurance companies. So happy to work on the pricing for that with individual companies.
Okay, excellent. Okay. We'd just like to go back and say thank you to Tyler Jordan from the Central District Health for sharing with us the basic guidelines. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Connie, for taking the time to share with us. Remember, this will be made available on the keepmeridianhealthy.org website and can be replayed by other people in your industry. We appreciate you taking the time today to join us, and keep Meridian healthy and open for business. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks.